Alright, hey guys, Fiddle Ferret here, and welcome back to another manga review of sorts. And today we are going to be looking at the short series Evergreen by the author of Toradora. Let me get this right so I don't get it wrong. Yuyoko Takamiya. So, some of you may have heard me talk about this before. Toradora is like one of my favorite all-time series. I love Toradora. I've watched the anime countless times. I watched it subbed, and then I watched it dubbed, and then I started all over again. So I love her work on Toradora, and I've gotten really excited to see that Seven Seas, who has published the Toradora manga, which is so slow in coming out, but it's well worth the wait, has been releasing some of her other series. And so she is a light novel author, and other people do the manga art for her in various forms. So I was super excited when I saw that Evergreen here was from, her as well. So I was like, this is going to be really good. I was super excited for it. And so it was funny because I encountered this slight thing that kind of, I thought was interesting, because when I started talking about how excited I was for Evergreen in one of my videos, I got several comments saying, ugh, you just be a little bit careful, you might not be exactly what you expect. And so I was like, oh, that's a little interesting. And so, through the first 3 volumes of this series, I thought it was great. But before I get too far here, let me just give you a quick overview of the series. So Evergreen follows a young boy named Hodaka, and he has like this congenitive heart disease, disability sort of thing. And it still affects him to this day. He has a big scar. It almost, killed him as a kid. And so he deals with this, and he has like this recurring nightmare of this like little girl in a mask stabbing him. And so, and his father has died and has passed away, so it's just him and his mother. And so you have this interesting, actually, it sort of reminds me of like something like Kero Shoujo, that kind of main character with a disability. And so he's kind of a little bit of a recluse. He likes manga. He has this really cool girl he has in the manga club with him, and they like to hang out. But he doesn't do much. He's a bit of a nervous Nelly is not the best way to describe it, but something like that. And so he has this kind of crush he sits at and stares at from the window of the manga club room, and her name is, let me get this right as well, is Awaya Nikki. And so she's this beautiful, blonde, joyful, like elegant swimmer, and she's on the swim team, and it's wonderful. And he kind of watches her from afar and really admires her. And as the story goes on, you kind of get to the point where these two start to interact, and you start to build this relationship between these characters. And at first, Nikki seems like a very happy-go-lucky, free-flowing character, and I've noticed this from Yukoko, no, that's not it. It's Yuyuko, before in her writing, because I've even been reading Golden Time lately, and she likes flawed characters, and especially flawed characters with like deep emotional, conflict or family issues. And so there's definitely a theme that seems to run in all of her work that has that feel to it. And so, like I said, Nikki seems like this happy-go-lucky character, but you start getting like foreshadowing, like in the end of the first volume, about how her life isn't necessarily great and perfect either. And so this series, as I've been reading it, I've been surprised with how short. I'm like, I know it's only 4 volumes, which was surprising me because I didn't really understand where this was going to go. And so it's your standard love interest story with, characters that have their flaws. And I like those kind of stories. I like Toradora. Toradora does that perfectly. But I don't know if Evergreen captures that feeling as well. Evergreen, as I'm sure anyone who's read it knows, has a very interesting plot twist. And it's a plot twist that it brings me back to my feelings when I was reading Bunny Drop. For those of, I won't spoil anything right here, but for those of you who have read Bunny Drop or knows what happens in the, not just the anime adaptation, but the later volumes, it's a bit interesting. It's a bit hard to wrap your head around. It's kind of like, And Evergreen doesn't fall into that same exact category, but it has an interesting thing where and for me, the twist in Evergreen, it just seems so out of left field for me. I don't know, maybe I missed foreshadowing to it, maybe I missed, you know, hints at it, but it was awkward, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, right. And so, and I just didn't totally like the way the series concludes. It tries to make it nice and sweet with a nice resolution, but I'm left at the end kind of sitting there wondering, so what's the relationship now? I mean, I sit there going, it's not very clear on the relationship, and I guess the tie-in they're trying to make to the Evergreen title is very important to the story. At least it's supposed to be. I didn't really get the profound meaning and correlation that the Evergreen was supposed to have. I get what the series was trying to do, but it didn't reach me emotionally like Toradora did. Not even close. And I know that's not exactly fair to say, because Toradora is not just only like one of my favorites, it's pretty well renowned as being one of the best romance, you know, romantic comedy kind of series, at least I think it is, out there. It's held a pretty high standard. And so it's not fair to put that same standard on Evergreen, but being from the same author and expecting the same kind of emotional attachment, I had it for a while in this series, but by the end of the series, I was actually more invested and more interested in the second romance in this series between two other characters that are also having a tough time distinguishing their feelings and opening up, because, like I said, she has a great way of having emotional conflict, and I found myself being more invested in their story and their journey, and I was like, I kind of wish I had more of them, frankly. And but not to say Evergreen is bad, but the twist was just sort of like, huh, I see. So I mean, I was literally reading it like, I put the book down for a minute and went, huh, interesting. And so Evergreen is, for being a nice, it benefits Evergreen that it's such a short series, because I understand why it may be short, because if she had built up like a very long, drawn out, I don't know, let's say like 10-volume series that resulted in the climax and the ending that the Evergreen does, I would be very dissatisfied. But because it's such a short series and it doesn't mislead you for too long, then it makes it more digestible as a reader. And so but yeah, I avoided spoilers in this, guys. I hope you don't mind that. If you guys would like me to maybe in the future like have like a first part without spoilers and then talk about specific spoilers, I can do that. I'd love your input on that, so just go ahead and let me know what your feelings are on that. But Evergreen, it was interesting. I liked the characters in Evergreen, albeit they didn't act to character sometimes, especially Nikki. I felt that her character jumps were a bit odd sometimes, especially in the final volume, but I can understand it to a certain extent. But having her be one way through the whole series and then have it change like halfway through the final volume was a little jarring and a little uneven. And so even though Evergreen is no Toradora by any stretch, it is an interesting read into characters and relationships, and how when those relationships, you know, when you expect everything to be going one way and almost completely out of your own control, something else is thrust upon you and you're all of a sudden in the situation that you never wanted to be in. It does a good job of exploring that, but at the same time, I wasn't completely satisfied with the ending or with the correlation the Evergreen title was supposed to have with the rest of the series itself. But anyway, guys, I do hope you enjoyed this quick, manga review, short take little thing here. But I've been Fiddle Ferret, and I will see you back on the prowl next time. Bye-bye!